Man, I swear Tangara is loaded. Like, this place is just, it's got a lot of employees, very high tech. They have investing in new sections. They're investing in a research facility. They're able to send people off to Hawaii to train for 2 years. This place, it's got some money behind it. I'm not sure exactly where they might be getting that money from, but yeah, anyways, that's my thoughts on Aquatope on White Sand, episode 23. Unfortunately, only one more episode left, and like I kind of been talking about for the last few episodes, I really don't feel that this show is going to have that impactful end to it. Not that it was a bad show, and not that this is a bad ending for it, but more in the idea that it really didn't have that point in which things just really picked up. We got that impactful moment, things really shifted, and you felt like something significant happened. Instead, like I said, it seems like it's just kind of playing out a, well, life happens kind of scenario. Life happens. This is the characters, this is the involvement they've had in it, and life happens. And even though technically my theories on Fuka kind of came to fruition, really doesn't seem like it's in the same vein that I was kind of expecting, as we did get that suddenly out of nowhere, Fuka's into environmentalist stuff. It seems like instead of my theory of her getting into being like a face of environmentalist issues, becoming like not necessarily an idol, like she jumps out there in a sparkly suit and does a dance routine, but more of an idea of like a reporter, somebody in front of the camera that can catch people's attention because of her enthusiasm and tell people about stuff. But it technically plays it out. Essentially, they start this episode off by talking about this USTD, which I think is their marketing team sucks. Like, they have so much money in this Tangara place, but their marketing department just, did nobody see that and go, not a good name, not a good abbreviation? And what was it? The Under the Sea and Sea Creatures Totally Devoted. That's where you got that from. Okay. But no, it's like, it's one of those things of like, you see that and you go, nah, that kind of sounds like something else. So you probably shouldn't do that. But despite that, they give a call out. They're going to do this research facility, and that anybody that wants to be a part of it, they'll be sent out to Hawaii for 2 years to train at this aquarium there. And obviously, the big question becomes, who wants to get involved? The big ones were definitely Karu, and then, of course, Fuka was really considering it. But then when she does her presentation, because they all have to do this presentation, her presentation was at this place where the dolphin's currently at, where she does this routine, and the routine was very idolist. She was taking her experience of entertaining people, jumping out there in that shark outfit, Tole Moe flopping on the ground. It was her way of entertaining. This is what she knows. And it was interesting that they were kind of pointing out, well, kids don't come to this aquarium, which I'm like, that's about the stupidest statement I've ever heard. But they're claiming that a perspective of somebody entertaining children isn't necessarily what they want. But that's when the director kind of corrects them, like, no, if kids get involved with this stuff at an early age, they're the future. They're the future people that will do this stuff for preservation. These are these future kids that their future's at stake and they will get involved more. This is an important thing. She's got an idea here and it's something that we should nurture. But of course, the entire episode, Fuka's issue is that she's afraid of leaving Kukuru. And I thought it was funny because it almost as if it points out this idea that Fuka, she puts it in a way that she relies on Kukuru to support her as well. That's kind of been the gist of the entire series as a whole, is Fuka and Kukuru are constantly supporting each other. Fuka is here because of Kukuru. When she writes this letter to try out for this whole thing, she points out that she met Kukuru and Kukuru inspired her to do this. But what it seems like for the last 12 episodes, or 11 episodes, is that it always seems like Kukuru is relying on Fuka, and Fuka constantly is trying to pull her back up. We haven't really had a case where Kukuru is supporting Fuka since probably midway through the first core. Fuka's kind of had it together ever since then. She's always having to help Kukuru, which is a perfectly fine thing. It's a great story there. But it presents the problem that Fuka, it plays it out at the beginning of this episode as if Fuka is worried about leaving Kukuru alone, but then it tries to correct itself for the later part saying, no, I need you. like, no, I'm not specifically saying I can't leave you, Kukuru, because you're a mess. It's trying to have Fuka point out that, no, I can't leave you because you're my support. You're what inspires me. You're what brought me into this, and I can't leave you because of that. But it's like, yeah, but you haven't really been playing it out that way, but sure, we'll go with it. But even still, it is a cute concept because it gets to that point eventually where Fuka kind of has to let go. This is what she wants to do, and so she has to let go so that she can do that. And that's what leads her to eventually say, look, Kukuru inspired me, and now I'm going to act on it now I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to try out for this thing, which she successfully does. At the very end, we find out that, yes, they're going to send Fuka away to do this whole project. But yes, on the other side of this whole thing with Kukuru, we do see her seeing that Fuka is saying these things and obviously implying to herself that she is a burden upon Fuka and eventually telling Fuka to go on. But at the same time, having Kukuru eventually decide that marketing is what she wants to do. Big shock to nobody. Big shock to nobody. She gives up on the attendant thing and she's gonna go the route of doing marketing. She feels like marketing, as we all kind of claimed for a long time ago, marketing will be her way of establishing protection for the animals. I'm going to go this route. It's the same goal, but I'm going to go this route. Like I said, predictable, especially when they had Karen come into the picture and Karen's whole thing was, yes, I want to do the attendant thing too. That's what I originally wanted to do. And she's the competition. It was obviously they were going to give it up to her, which I don't know if they technically confirmed that, but I think they pretty much established that's who's going to be taking over for Kai. Which we did get a scene of Kai. He came in and was kind of like, well, I thought that you were going to take over my role. And she's like, no, I'm going to stick with the marketing thing. And that's when they got into the whole Choco and the rest of the penguins arriving there, which was cute. I did like also, we did have a scene where Kukuru was speaking to the director. And the director was specifically asking about the future that she wants. Saying, look, this attendant job's available. Why don't you take it? And she's like, no, I'm going to stick with the marketing thing. But she also said, but I'm also afraid because I don't think Tetsuji Suwa, her boss, she thinks that he lost hope in her. And this is where we get a brief kind of little description of what he's been through. I guess a way of humanizing him as a character, which I've always kind of figured he was going to be the big teddy bear. Finding out that apparently he used to work at a bank and one of his companies that was working under him was an aquarium and they went under. And he was he felt guilt because this particular aquarium went under and all the animals were kind of stranded and he felt guilt for those animals. So he decided that he wanted to be a part of Dengara and never let something like that happen again. Thus why he's in marketing, thus why he has a passion to make sure it's successful, and they keep bringing in people because he wants this place to stay open. Now, he probably should invest all that strength to going to the director and saying, hey, director, stop spending so much dang money on stuff. But that's companies. That's business. You have to invest to grow. You have to keep investing and keep evolving. Otherwise, eventually you become stagnant and you become like Gamma Gamma. Which leads me to my thoughts on where this is going from this point on. I think next episode, 2-year jump. I think this is the story. I honestly think this is it. I think this was what they were aiming for. And I think this is the conclusion of the story. Why I say that is because typically with after stories, time jumps at the last episode, you're really kind of getting a perspective of, and this is where they went. It's the whole, here's the story of the people, and then cast scroll, and this is where they're currently at, and little captions. So I think the next episode is going to jump forward 2 years. We're going to have Fuka come back. She's going to be a part of this research group. She's probably going to be doing things in order to, improve people's awareness of environmental issues. You'll have Kukuru's probably, I can see Kukuru probably moving up in the marketing area. I don't know necessarily that she'll replace Sua, but probably pretty high up in there in that 2-year span. She'll probably be running the new area that they've created, probably have some weddings shown off in there, just see how that turns out, because by the 2-year point, that will be built. Show Karen finally being an attendant, and everybody will be happy with that scenario as well. I just, like I said, I kind of think that's where it's going. I think that's probably the wrap up. The final episode will be that. Now, the question that I've been kind of throwing a couple people on our live chat with our live streams and stuff like that is where from there? Because I think, honestly, in my opinion, not that this show is a bad show. Don't get me wrong. I think this show for the second core is not very impactful. But I think one thing does obviously still hang in the air. We've done all this stuff, and what is left to do is the thing they left behind with the first core. Now, they can establish this in this last episode, when they did this whole thing where there's this new section that Kukuru's heading, she's doing the marketing stuff, and then boom, she sees a vision of her family again in that new department. Or we leave it up to a movie. Now, PA Works in the past has been known to do 2-core series with a movie. They don't typically go beyond 2 cores, but if they do anything extra, it'll be a movie. They did this with 2 series, and that was Hanasaki Roha and Shirobako. Now, those are 2 very popular shows. So don't get me wrong, I don't really feel this show's popular enough for that, but you never know. If they have a story to be told, they will probably do a movie just to see if it hits. Now, in the movie, I can see them readdressing what we went through the entire first core. What was the first core? It was save Gama Gama. Here's this supernatural force. There's this, deity thing that's running around all the time, this trickster, and the visions. How do we recreate that and bring people to Gama Gama? The entire second core is growing up, doing things that aren't so fun for you, finding fun in those things that you're not so interested in, and establishing a future. Now, in the movie, they can finally have that moment where maybe Kukuru does invest in trying to rebuild Gama Gama. And she re-sparks that desire to rebuild that place that creates dreams for people and brings that vision that people need, that they're searching for, that it was doing in the first core. That was its whole premise, was bring people in here that have issues that they're facing, and they see a vision that comforts them, so they can address that in a movie. But again, I don't see that being addressed in that final episode, unless, like I said, at the very end, where you see Kukuru in this new area, she sees a vision again. That trickster shows up again. But at any rate, that's my thoughts on episode 23 of Aquatope and White Sand. I'll definitely do a impressions on the last episode and give my final thoughts on it, but I don't really expect too much. I think it's going to be a pleasant episode. I think it's going to be a very heartwarming episode, but we'll see. But that's my thoughts on episode 23 of Aquatope and White Sand. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below, comment, let me know how you thought of the episode, subscribe if you haven't already, share this video if you can, support us on Patreon if you can. We definitely appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.